Okay.
So, today it's my great pleasure to welcome Sharon Deering to the podcast. Hi, Sharon.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So glad to have you here today, Sharon. Sharon, you and I have been in language education and publishing for quite a few years together now. And a lot
Yes.
of us who don't live in Texas still knew you from the amazing language workshops you did at conferences. And you and I met at meetings of the National Language Supervisors Group. And then I asked you to be in a language consulting group. So we have a whole lot of language background together, you and I. And
Yes, we
then
do.
life changed for you. So tell us about yourself and tell us your story, please, Sharon.
Well, it's this is a concerning thing to have your speech take, taken away. But that's what happened to me because I had a stroke. And so um, it was one day I could talk really well and about anything and everything. And the next minute, I couldn't talk at all. And
Hmm.
it was very disconcerting to say the least.
No question. It just went completely away, like you couldn't say anything.
Not at first. I
Uh-huh.
couldn't say anything. I could not say. They said the paramedics tried to get me to say something, but I couldn't. So, but it's all right. I mean, got where I could say some things pretty well and pretty quickly. And then it was like I had to go back to the very beginning
Hmm.
and uh, say what I could say, which is not very much, and then go from there, building and building and building until I could get where I could do more things. Compared to now, uh, it's night and day compared to what I was 3 years ago.
Wow. So this happened in 2017, and what were some of
Yes.
the first things that then you could say? You said you were limited by what you could say. What could you get out?
Well, I could get out my basic needs, most of them, and I really don't know exactly because um, I wasn't really aware of how
Hmm.
much my speech had gone away in the hospital. But as I got to therapy, then I realized I could say 6 days out of 7 of the week, for example. But I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't say the seventh one, and it was always um, not. Sometimes it would be one, uh, like it'd be 6 out of 7, but I'd leave one out. But the next time I'd leave another one out,
Interesting. Interesting.
and they were not in order.
Not in order either. Hmm.
No, and
Eh,
so that everybody, it was like my brain was scrambled up.
Sharon, you made an interesting statement when you first started that. You said, I didn't realize until I got into therapy. Because language is so basic inside, can you describe for us a little bit more about how that kind of language and brain connection was going that you hadn't noticed that you were missing that language?
No, I didn't notice because in my mind I was right. It was um, I was saying things right, but when I got to saying things out loud, then I noticed. Um, like um, like now I can say things in my head all the time, and it comes out right. But then uh, I can't say that to you because it comes out wrong.
Isn't that interesting? And when you were working therapeutically with it, when you still work with it, How do you approach then the the working with the language that's inside you to try to bring it out? What are some of the aspects of that?
Well, you just have to do it bit by bit, and uh, you have to just, um, for example, when I first started, I couldn't say a subject verb object sentence. It took me 7 tries to say that because I couldn't. Uh, it was always scrambled in my mind. Not in my mind because it's all right. It's scrambled as it's coming out. And so, what did you ask me? I forgot.
I just asked, how did you begin to then work with
Oh,
bringing that language back?
well, you have to work at a bit at a time. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And you have to just try everything. And and until you get something that works. So, for example, I read aloud a lot, even though I don't like to, but I do because then you can see reading aloud. You can see the progression of the sentences,
Hmm.
and so that's one thing that I do. And I do. Let's see, I every time I talk, I say things. I don't I don't talk in silence. Like when I'm by myself, I say things out loud, and that gets me a little bit further along. Um, so I talk to myself all the time.
And can you tell when you are, I mean, we're talking again about your brain is doing certain things, then your mouth is doing certain things.
Doesn't cooperate.
It doesn't cooperate, but you can tell you're listening to yourself when it comes out, and so you can
Yeah.
tell. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I always can tell. There's every stroke is different, but in my case, uh, I had I had the the disconnect is between my mind and my verbal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so I have to do everything I can to get it um, where the verbal matches the other. Does it make sense?
It does make sense. It does. And Sharon, one of the aspects that I've always enjoyed, is your background. We've shared a lot over the years into your background with, being in various Spanish and Portuguese speaking countries. I mean, you were in
Yes.
Brazil for a while, right?
15 years.
How many?
15.
15 years. Okay, so you were speaking Brazilian Portuguese during those
Yes.
years.
Yes.
Was there
Most of
any
the time.
role? Was there any role in those other languages? You're a Spanish teacher supervisor. You've spoken the Portuguese. What kind of reflections do you have on the role of those languages during this time of stroke?
Well, it's interesting because when I can't think of one word in English, oftentimes I can think of it in Portuguese or Spanish, especially Portuguese. And so I have to just rely on whatever comes out. And then sometimes my girls help me um, have the right wording in English, and sometimes I just think of it, and sometimes I don't.
Sometimes it just doesn't
And
get there. Uh-huh.
right, but it's interesting because it used to be that my husband did that. He he did it when preaching, and he would think of a word only in Portuguese, and I would supply the word in English for him. Now I have to do the same thing.
Mm. Interesting, interesting.
So
Now you've talked about practicing out loud, reading out loud, for example. Do
yes,
you read out loud and say Spanish or Portuguese periodically to keep that going, or do you
no,
concentrate on
I
English?
haven't.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, I concentrate on English because that's the language we speak here most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and also because that's the my native language still, and so I've relied on that. But I still sometimes I just get frustrated, and so I go to the other language, and it helps.
Mm-hmm. Get over that. Get over that. At least that emotional hump, huh?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Now, Sharon, one of the things that I've always been interested in is you're such a language specialist. You've worked so much with training teachers of languages over the years and insights into language and so forth. What have been some of the things that have surprised you as a language specialist in experiencing your own stroke and your struggle with language? What kind of insights can you share?
Well, it's very interesting because this disconnect between the mind and the verbal is really uh, more than I had expected, and I don't know what exactly what to do about it. You know,
Hmm.
um, but I keep trying. But my my not a need, but it's the I can't think. I'm sorry.
That's
It's
okay.
uh it's like I don't know.
So you're reflecting on the fact that it's surprising you about this brain and speech
Right.
disconnect. Is that it? Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is very surprising because I didn't. Again, I didn't know that I was had such a disconnect because in my mind everything was all right, and so I thought that it would be all right verbally too, at, at least at some point. But now I know it's not going to be all right. It's going to be always a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. You you have to struggle with something, right?
I, I suppose every single person on the planet has something they're struggling with.
Right, exactly. And so I'm not concerned about that. I just have to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And uh, one thing I want your listeners to know is that you always have hope, and I really think that that is the main thing, is that you have hope, whatever your struggle. And I want you to know that.
And what is it? How would you invite then the listeners, in fact, to find that hope? Where do they dig? How do they spot it? How do they apply it? Do you have what kind of insights do you have for getting that hope inside them when they have struggles?
Well, of course, my first one is the Bible because that's where I get my hope. And so I search for hope, like hope. Uh, I search for scriptures that have to do with hope, and I lean on that, and uh, I I know that He who promised us is faithful,
Hmm.
and I know that because He's faithful, we can have faith too. Uh, and so that's what I rely on is the Bible, and especially the New Testament, because um, that's just what I'm relying on the most. Um, and I think um, the words about hope.
That's really there. You reach out to that faith, you reach out to that hope, you reach out to that spiritual connection. And you also have, you mentioned about your husband, you mentioned about your daughters. Can you talk a little bit more about where people go potentially for hope outside of themselves? And you have another history there too, because you lost your husband before you had your stroke.
Yeah, about 2 months before. Um, well, I'm not sure what you mean, but I'll just say that I have hope of seeing him again, for one thing,
Hmm.
and also have I have 12 grandchildren, and they all provide hope in their special way, and so that's really good. And my daughters provide hope as well. Um, Sometime when I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
But um, I think when you go outside of yourself, you have to see what provides you hope. And it's not the same with everybody. But one thing is the same, and that is that he who promises is faithful. And so you 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 can um, you can do this is one of the things that when I get tired,
Hmm.
I I don't do as well.
That's okay.
But
And you're expressing it very well, actually.
okay, well I just I want the people who are listening to know that there's hope, uh, and you said it outside yourself because you can't have hope just within yourself. That's not enough. So you provide hope, um, and uh, not only hope, but like plans uh, and all that, so that for example, I'm gonna write a book.
Mm.
I haven't written a book. When I was well, I didn't write a book, but I'm gonna do that now and just see if I can, and that
Hmm.
sort of thing. You have to have hope of the things that are outside of yourself that like are going to give her purpose for living.
That's really great. And I know that that will be a real encouragement for people. And there's something, Sharon, that interests me also is, you have experienced this stroke and this language, struggle that you've been working with and so forth. Two questions come to my mind when we're talking about that. One is about what are your friends' responses to things like that, or maybe not just friends, when you go out into the world and you are working to use your language. What kind of responses do you get from people? How do you navigate that? Because language usually flows really quickly, and
Yes,
you've been working hard at it. Tell us some
you're
about how
right.
that's going.
Well, it doesn't go very well.
Hmm.
Friends usually understand, and so that's really uh, a comfort for me. But the general public doesn't understand. Sometimes I say I've had a stroke, so just be patient with me. And sometimes I don't. I just go and do it, and you have to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
but the world is not very understanding of that. But again, that's just a part of the struggle, and you have to you have to just do that and know that. that's part of the struggle. And so you just do it, and it gets easier and easier after time.
Practicing even with
Include
that, huh? Yeah, practicing even with that.
yes,
Hmm.
and, and then what your other question?
No, I was just getting that practice, and the question I did have
Oh
though
yeah.
that was coming from it was what do you think makes people not respond well, not understand?
I think not understanding because they don't have experience with that. They, most of people don't know anybody who's had a stroke, and if they do, they shy away from it. And only when you have like um, uh, my daughters, they had never had anything like that in their life. But then now they just go along and they're fine no matter how I'm doing. If I'm doing well, they're fine. If I'm doing well, not well, then they're fine too. They just say rest a little bit, and then uh, we'll take it up again later. So, but it's mostly not understanding because they haven't had experience with it.
Very interesting insight. You know, Sharon, when you wrote a little something for my website that's in regard to our preparation for this podcast and so forth, you mentioned about with speech comes identity.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? What you meant by that?
Well, um, speech is the identity that you show to the world. So when you can't say anything because you can't because you can't you can't say where you are, you can't say what your intention is for that moment. You can't say what you've come to do. Uh, nothing. And so it's like um, it's like um, I don't know. It's it's like you you lose your identity because you lose yourself in a way.
Mm.
You know that you're down there somewhere, but to come out is hard, and so you have to uh, know yourself. You have to know yourself. That's what I want to say. You have to know yourself, and that way, even if it's hard to um, to uh, even if it's hard to express, uh, you know yourself, and you rest in that knowledge. And can you see what I'm saying?
I sure can. I sure can. And it's interesting, again, because coming back to what you mentioned about the speech being identity, in
Right,
fact, you kind of took it apart there, didn't you? You say, my identity is inside of me. I'd
right,
like to be able to get it out.
right. But it's not necessary.
It's still
It's
inside there, even if it's trapped
right,
sometimes.
right. And so it's all right if you can't get it all out all the time. It's all right. And when you can get it out, well, that's a bonus.
It's all to the good. You know, Sharon, you and I have had some conversations over these years, including ones after your stroke and as you were recuperating. And I remember that some of them are very moving because the emotional content of what you were trying to say, what you were trying to get across to me as your friend, kind of built up a tension and frustration in you, and I just remember, there were times where you just overcome by that emotion of just wanting to get what was inside out.
Yeah, that's true. And you can't always. That's the thing. You can't always. But you have to be at peace that it's all right. That at least it's inside of you. If it gets out, then that's good. And if it doesn't, it's all right too. Um, but you have to make your peace about that. Otherwise, you won't. It'll drive you crazy.
Now, let's talk about for just a sec that language is inside of you. You want to get it out.
Right.
You've gotten some peace out of recognizing that you can't always get it out in
Right.
speech. Does the same thing happen in writing? How does
No,
writing respond to what you've
I
experienced?
don't know why, but I write really clearly most of the time. Sometimes I don't. If I'm tired or whatever, I don't. But usually I can write very, very well still. And I always could uh, type. Now, I couldn't write for a long time. I could write my birthday and some of those things, but not anything else. But I could type for some reason.
Hmm.
The, so, some things you don't understand. No, nobody does. But anyway, I could type, and so I did a lot of that sort of thing. Um, but yes, it comes out differently in the writing as versus the oral.
And you mentioned that it's probably different for other people. In other words, for you, speech was
Oh yes,
the struggle and writing came pretty quickly.
yes.
But for others, it might be different.
But
And
it's different for other people.
mhm.
Everybody has that has a stroke is different.
And
Some of the, some of the same to degree, and some of them are totally different. Some
mhm.
of them can not move, but they can. And I thank the Lord that I can move and get around. That's one of the things that I felt because I can move and get around, and so
That
um,
that's great, Sharon. Well, one of the things that I think is fascinating too is that you've just learned and shared here so many things about how language and the language struggle for you turned out and so forth. What kind of invitation do you have to our listeners for them to think about or to connect with in their own lives or in the lives of someone they know or might know in the future with regard to how language works under the struggle of, say, in this case, a stroke or other things that might might create frustration.
yeah. Well, first I think um, you have to you have to grab recovery, and very uh, it's not easy. So it's step by step, and it's inch by inch, and it's word by word, and you have to just be content with that. And then as um, you might know somebody that's had a stroke or something else, or you might have a stroke yourself, something like that. But um, you have to just hold on to recovery no matter what. Sometimes um, it's uh, it's like, okay, you have to hold on to recovery no matter what, no matter the circumstance. For instance, it might be something different altogether, but you have to hold on to recovery. And that's the most important thing, I think, is to hold on to recovery. And as and then the other thing I think is that you have to hold on to the fact that you have value. Um, it doesn't matter that you have struggles. It doesn't matter that you have I forgot the word. Um, you have well, struggles is all I can think of. But uh, you have to hold on to the fact that you have value anyway, and it's really important. You have to um, hold on to the fact that you have a reason for being. It may be different from when you were uh, whole, but um, it's really important to hold on to the fact that you have value and you have a reason for being.
Sharon, thank you. Thank you, because as you wrote, with speech comes identity, but what you have just shared is that identity goes far beyond, far deeper than speech. Thanks for that encouragement for everyone listening and for those that they care for. It's really very much appreciated, my friend.
That's good. I'm glad.
Absolutely. Now, people can find out more about what you've talked about and see some book recommendations that you have, right? Or even connect up
Yes.
with you, right? By going
Yes.
to my website. So
Yes.
make sure that the listeners all know that they can connect up with you and with recommendations that you have and essays you've written through my website, fluencyonline.com. Any other comments for me, Sharon?
No, I don't think so at this time, but I really enjoyed being with you.
Well, I sure enjoyed it too. It's always so much fun and so insightful whenever I have a chance to have a conversation with you. And I really appreciate you are having this conversation with me today. And thanks for inspiring us by connecting us to your personal work to regain your language and your identity. Very inspiring, Sharon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.